Hi, I'm Jackie Noblet, reporter with Ignites. I'm here with Tom Ganella. Tom is Executive Vice President at Lincoln Trust. Tom, thanks so much for talking with me.
Thank you for having me.
So fee disclosure is just one item on a very busy regulatory and legislative plate. I know you watched this very carefully. What are you watching, and what should the industry be aware of that's happening on Capitol Hill?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot going on right now in Washington around the retirement industry. You have the issue of needing more tax revenue. That's out there already, where they're looking at the pension industry as a whole to add tax revenue to the government's bottom line, if you will. And so they're looking at ways to change the industry to help on that front. Things they're looking at, for example, are limiting contributions. So instead of $17,500 contribution limit, maybe they lower it to $10,000, or maybe they split it and part of it has to be a Roth contribution. So now they're getting the tax dollars up front. Where the government misses on this, and the CBO, when they do their forecast, or their estimates, I should say, they're a 10-year window. So these contributions never come in play past that 10-year window. So in other words, that tax revenue from those contributions, because it's only 10 years, the typical tax is paid after that time. So these are deferrals, not tax incentives, if you will. They're tax incentives because they are a deferral from a tax standpoint. So that's one of the areas that the government recognizes, but they can't do anything about because of the way the CBO makes their forecast. So will the retirement industry be impacted? Absolutely. How it's going to be impacted, I don't know. I do think there will be changes, as I alluded to, with deferrals and the percentage that may have to be forced into Roths. So government's talking about that on one hand. They're also then talking about how the industry has failed participants. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't start limiting the amount people can put away for retirement and say that people aren't saving enough. So I really think the industry needs to take a different look at this industry. And where we failed as an industry, whether it's from Congress, from employers, and the industry itself, is not focusing enough on the participant. And that's not being discussed enough in Washington. And the reason is because there's not a lot of money in it.
Another thing that I know that Congress is watching, you're watching, is rules around fiduciary. Who is a fiduciary? Who will regulate the fiduciaries? But you also came out with a new service for fiduciaries for the broker-dealers who would like to service the retirement industry. Can you tell me a little bit about that service and why you felt it was important?
Sure. Well, kind of the background on that is a lot of broker-dealers do not want their reps or their solicitors, advisors, whatever they tend to call them, out talking and selling retirement plans and taking on the fiduciary liability. So they've looked to third parties, such as ourselves, to help them solve that issue. So what we've done is we created a solution a few months ago called Model K, where we allow the solicitor of a broker-dealer to sell a 401k plan, and we take on what's called the 338 fiduciary responsibility for them. So we take that off the broker-dealer's hands. We oversee the plan itself from a 338 standpoint, the investments, and then the rep can be out just soliciting or selling to their client and not taking on that fiduciary risk. So it alleviates a lot of fiduciary responsibility from the broker-dealer and also the oversight that they would need on their reps. And we've had quite a few sign up for that program.
But the fiduciary component is something that is increasingly being realized as important or potentially risky as all of these regulations and just oversight has increased, correct?
You're right. Orrin Hatch just put up a bill on this issue, or if I said put up a proposal on this issue, and it's being talked a lot about in Washington. And I don't know where that's going to play out. There's still a lot of lobby interest involved, particularly on the broker-dealer and insurance side. But short of that, we've tried to solve the problem, the current problem, and we think it'll be a continuing problem for the broker-dealers by offering them this fiduciary protection for their reps. Because, again, they have hundreds of reps out selling 401k plans. They certainly don't want to take on the liability of a rep doing the wrong thing for one of their clients.
Well, there's a lot to talk about, but I appreciate you coming in and sharing your insights today.
Thank you for having me.